Well, this is a ministry most notable for what it lacks rather than what it has. The new Prime Minister has just announced a ministry and a cabinet without a disability care or disability reform minister, one of the most important social reforms of our generation, and it appears no minister is responsible. No minister for seniors, no minister for ageing, no minister for resources, no minister for energy, no minister for financial services. The largest part of our economy is the services sector. Our financial services sector has great potential, and we don't have a minister or a minister assisting. No minister for tourism. I think there'll be a lot of people in Australia who find these areas of policy important, who'll be very disappointed that they don't have a specific voice at the cabinet table. The new Prime Minister has neglected whole swathes of the Australian economy and important parts of the Australian society in refusing to appoint ministers specifically responsible for these important areas. Also, just as disappointing is the fact that this ministry is patently lacking in women. Now, all cabinet ministers and all ministers should always be appointed on merit, but the fact that the new Prime Minister could only find out of his entire party room one female member of Parliament that he regards as being meritorious enough to serve in his cabinet is a sad indictment. The cabinet of Afghanistan now has more women in it than the cabinet of Australia. This is a sad day for the senior representation of women in Australian politics. I also note that the role of the Minister for the Status of Women has been downgraded to a non-cabinet position into the outer ministry. Now, the outgoing government had 6 women in the cabinet, 6 talented women who had earned their place on merit. I think that it is a disappointing day when Australia goes so backwards in the representation of senior females at the most important policy-making table in Australia. Now, I also want to deal with the speculation today that the new government, and I noticed that the new Prime Minister refused to deny this, would not be releasing their mid-year economic forecast until the January holidays. Now, this is a clear breach of the commitment, the promise that Tony Abbott made at their campaign launch just a few weeks ago. It is unprecedented since the Charter of Budget Honesty Act was passed for a mid-year economic forecast to be released in January. Now, we all know what happens in January in Australia. You all know what happens in January in Australia. Many of you, members of the press gallery, I dare say, won't be here. You'll have your board shorts on. You'll be enjoying time with your family as you're entitled to. There will not be the normal scrutiny that you get in this building in other months of the year. This is a clear and cynical ploy on behalf of the new government to avoid scrutiny. It is consistent with the approach they took during the election campaign of failing to be upfront and honest with the Australian people about the state of their budget books, about the impact of their policies. What we're seeing here is now a clear pattern of behaviour from this new government, saying one thing before the election and doing another thing after the election. Mr Abbott stood at a lectern at his campaign launch and promised that we'd see the state of the books within 100 days of the election of the new government. Now we're told it's not urgent enough, it can wait until everybody's on January holidays. We were told that the shadow ministry would translate entirely into the ministry. Now we're told Andrew Robb's not up to the job of being finance minister after the election. We were told that Tony Abbott would go to Indonesia within the first week of becoming Prime Minister, that we'd have a Jakarta-based foreign policy. Now we're told Minister Bishop will catch up with Minister Nadalagawa in New York for a coffee. This is not a Jakarta-based foreign policy. She says that she'll seek Indonesia's understanding, not their agreement. Again, we're seeing one thing before the election and another thing after the election. We were told that there's a budget emergency and that crisis measures would need to be taken. Now we read that Treasurer Hockey, incoming Treasurer Hockey, is contemplating spending to stimulate the economy, to increase the deficit. So we're seeing this pattern of one thing being said before the election and doing another completely different thing after the election. Just before I open up to questions, I just also want to give you an update on the process of the election of the new Labor leader. As you know, this process is underway. We have 2 candidates who have indicated their expression of interest in leading the Labor Party. I can tell you there's been strong reaction from Labor Party members across the country, really looking forward to having their say. There's also been an increase in applications and an increase in expressions of interest to join the Australian Labor Party, which is a good thing after an election defeat. We actually have more people wanting to join our party. I can tell you that the National Executive of the party, with the agreement and the acquiescence of both candidates, I understand, have agreed that more people should have a say and that every member of the Australian Labor Party who is a financial member, as at election day, the 7th of September, will get a vote. It had previously been a possibility that only those members with 2 years standing or more will get a vote, but we want as many people having a vote in this process as possible. So anybody who is a member of the Labor Party on election day will get a vote. I can also outline to you that nominations for Leader of the Federal Parliamentary Labor Party will close at 5 p.m. on the 20th of September. That's Friday, the 20th of September. The member ballot will open on the 24th of September. The ballot will close for members of the party on the 9th of October at 5 p.m. The caucus will meet to vote at 4 p.m. on Thursday, the 10th of October, and then the caucus ballots will be counted after the membership ballots have been counted, and the result of the ballot will be announced on the 13th of October, Sunday the 13th of October. As I say, this is a good thing for Australian democracy, a good thing for the Labor Party to invite so many more people to share with us the important decision about who should be our alternative Prime Minister, leading our party over the next term. It's an important process to go through, and it's a process that I'm sure, with the goodwill and the spirit that's being approached to it by both candidates, will stand the party and the nation in good stead.